So it's the second consecutive loss in an exhibition game for Team USA. Doesn't mean anything in regards to the Olympics or the seeds in the Olympics, but it should be alarming considering USA basketball was 54-2 in exhibition games before, well, their last two, and now they're 0-2 with this current team. They did have like an 11-point lead on Australia in the third quarter, only to trail much of the fourth quarter and playing catch up, and they could not contain Patty Mills. They struggled to get stops. They struggled to score points. First, this was Eddie Johnson, who, of course, a longtime NBA star, an NBA broadcaster, and you hear him on NBA radio. This was Eddie Johnson's thoughts after the Nigeria game, the first loss for USA basketball.
Well, they should be embarrassed, obviously, but they can learn from that and still go on and win the gold medal. You just can't pick up a basketball and think you can go beat a team that's been familiar with one another over the last number of years. I mean, basketball is a tricky game. You can't fool it. You know, you got to get out there between the lines and you got to do it. Your persona is not going to intimidate anybody. Those guys aren't intimidated. Those guys are like, this is basketball. You're supposed to win. And if we beat you, guess what? We own the world for the next day.
So then that was after they lost to Nigeria. Now they lose to Australia, who is a more well-regarded country in regards to basketball, and they have several NBA players. Aaron Baines actually got hurt. Patty Mills, Matthew Dellavedova. This is Greg Popovich after the game.
It's definitely noticeable when you're on the floor.
Let me also answer that question. You know, you asked the same sort of question, the same family of question last time, where you assume things that are not true. When you just mentioned, you know, blowing these teams out, that's never happened. So I don't know where you get that. Can I finish? Can I finish? Can I finish my statement? Can I finish my statement? When you talk, are you going to let me finish my statement or not? So you'll be quiet now while I talk, and then I'll listen to you. When you make statements about in the past just blowing out these other teams, number one, you give no respect to the other teams. And I talked to you last time about the same thing. We've had very close games against 4 or 5 countries in all these tournaments. So the good teams do not get blown out. There are certain games that might happen in one of the tournaments, in the World Championship, the Olympics, where somebody gets blown out. But in general, nobody's blowing anybody out for the good teams. So when you make a statement like that, it's like you assume that's what's going on. And that's incorrect.
Oh, okay. So look, Pop is right and he's wrong in regards to the losses, right? And he's saying, like, look, these have been, and I've been telling you that the good teams, those have been relatively close games. But like Nigeria was not somebody who was even marginally competitive. I will point out that half the Nigerian team is in the NBA, and I'm not sure if any of them actually live in Nigeria. So it's a different sort of level of competition, whereas Nigeria has thrown a bunch of money at it, hired Mike Brown. They've gone all in. They had a longer training camp, blah, 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 blah. I'm not somebody who tells you there's any one thing that goes wrong that causes these things. I was reading Brevin Knight, who, of course, former star in the NBA, who tweeted out moments ago, like, what people are missing is the rest of the world has gotten better and that there aren't going to be any more blowouts. That's true. Can I tell you what really is the problem? By my estimation, as somebody who loves the sport and loves our country, and like anybody else, anytime you'd ever had the chance to represent said country, I would crawl over glass to do so. Like, look, what don't we value in basketball? And you can tell me, like, wow, you're disconnected. Like, no, I'm not. I've covered the college, the pro game for 20 years. I played college basketball. I played professional basketball. My friends are now becoming head coaches. They've been assistant coaches. They're agents. Some of them are players. Okay, they're broadcasters, the college, the pro level. Basketball culture in the United States sucks. Okay? And it's our own fault. It's no one person's, it's not LeBron's fault, but what LeBron did epitomizes really what basketball has become. Our fight for high school, for college players to be able, one, to get paid, and then two, to be able to change teams without having to sit here is all part of the problem. We get beat because, and this is the greatest part about basketball. Anyone who's an actual basketball fan, right? It's hard because it's a disconnect from our country. But if you watch both of those last two teams that beat USA, you would say, like, I like watching them play better. You know that Kevin Durant, you know that Damian Lillard, you know that these guys are, like, in a one-on-one or you want a life of an NBA season, better players. But they're not a team, and we don't teach the value of team. I hear all these people saying, well, these guys play together for years, and they do. Do you know why? Because the best players want to play for their country, and they'll do anything it takes because it's an incredible honor. Why isn't Ben Simmons playing? Because Ben Simmons hanging out at Wimbledon instead of working on his game and representing his home country is more important to him. And honestly, they probably lose the game if Ben Simmons plays last night because he ain't all about Australia. He's about Ben Simmons. So I don't blame Kevin Durant for being a ball stopper, but Kevin Durant's a ball stopper. And Damian Lillard he's been a one-man band. Like, we've done this thing where, like, you know, Damian Lillard, he got to have better help around him. Like, what's to say he allows guys around him to be better? But more than anything, the culture of basketball. I know I coach AAU basketball, and I've had some kids join me that I said, like, look, if you want to join us, that's fine. We're going to play team basketball. And then the parents, or usually the parents, they get frustrated when I take them out because they may be scoring, but they're not actually passing the ball. They're not sharing the ball. They're not playing team defense. And so it works against the lower level teams. You play against teams of the same size. The team that plays as a team usually wins. So what the culture of basketball sucks in the country. It just does. We have these camps that, you know, it's basically like whoever gets the ball goes one-on-one, and if they score, we put it on social media and we call that kid a top 20 player in his class. We publicize he's in the lab doing work. No, he's working on passing. He's working on sliding or playing defense or doing anything other than what do they do against the cone? Oh, look at that Euro step. Our culture sucks. And everybody knows it. Nobody will say it except me. We teach people not to value team. Right? We teach you not to value team. I mean, like, look, you even have people. I'm friends with Nick Wright. Nick Wright, everything he says is an argument that is validated based upon the stats. Okay? The only stat that matters in sports is, does my team have more points than your team when that game is over? That's it. That's what those Aussies played like last night. And it wasn't like our guys were stat hunting. This is how they've always played. This is how they've been raised. Hey, I'm going to go find a team where I can be the guy. What's the highest level I can play on where I can be the guy? And then they go and if that doesn't work, they go to the next team and the next team and the next team. The same tournaments that all the other international countries play in, we play in. But we have a revolving door of players. Why? Because our culture sucks. And here's another one, if we select a guy like a Kevin Love who has played for USA basketball several times in his life, we call it out and go like, well, I get the shot because he's a white guy. Or maybe because he's actually a good culture guy. He might actually get it. You know? Like, do you watch sports? Why'd the Patriots win all those Super Bowls? Is it because of Tom Brady? Somewhat. But one, Tom Brady couldn't work with guys that were rookies. He's super hard on rookie wide receivers. Why? Because he demands them to work harder, to understand everywhere they need to be. Like, outside of Randy Moss was almost out of the league when he got to the Patriots. so bad with the Raiders, and he did the whole I play when I want to play thing. And Randy Moss is superior talent, but also a brilliant football mind. He finally got challenged, but for the most part, Edelman, Welker, those guys, Troy Brown, they're not stars elsewhere. Rashae Caldwell, they're not stars elsewhere. But they worked with the Patriots. Why? Because the Patriots are a team, damn it. The best player didn't take the most money he could have. The most joy you're ever going to get in the sport of basketball, and I'm pretty sure it's in the sport of football as well, but basketball especially. And this is what bums me out. This is what I was looking for. I tore my ACL a couple of days ago if you're just joining the Doug Gottlieb Show. But I was so excited to play some pickup basketball this summer because the greatest joy you're ever going to get playing hoop is you go onto a court, and if you line guys up, everybody would take their 5 above your 5, but you run the court all day because you got 5 guys that play together, right? That's what Nigeria did, and sure, they hit a bunch of shots. That's what the Aussies did. They just played harder, played better team basketball, ran better offense, back cut, got layups, isolated the Team USA players who aren't used to the ability to have help defense and the different rotations and playing together and sharing the ball offensively. You can say, hey, well, they've only practiced for 4 practices, but what did they accomplish in that practice? It's very simple. And look, I may completely fail on Saturday. I'm coaching a team of Oklahoma State alums. And the challenge to them is the exact same thing. Like, I don't care if you practice one day together, 5 days together, 3 months together. At the end of the day, either you're going to share and move the ball and try and do it as one, or you can try to do it yourself. And if you try to do it yourself, you run the risk of being beaten by an inferior, talented team, but one who's a team. That's what happened. They're a team, we're not. They value the front of the jersey. We just think, yeah, it's an honor. No. You play to represent the greatest country in the history of mankind. You have to play as though you're representing the greatest country in the history of mankind. We don't take pride in team. We don't take pride in sharing the ball. We don't take pride in team defense. We don't take pride in representing our country. That's period. Stop. I'm not saying our country doesn't have problems. I'm not saying basketball teams don't have problems. By the way, Patty Mills is Aboriginal, right? If you know anything about Australia and their treatment of Aboriginal people throughout its history, you would be appalled. But for him to be the starting point guard on his home country team is his greatest honor, and he played like it. So I think it's an exposure of the problems in the sport of basketball. This is what we do. The second a kid doesn't get his touches, doesn't get his looks, doesn't get his reps, he's off to another team or another school. And we do it in prep school and high school where our kids bounce here to there to there. Then they do it to college. Then they do it in the NBA. And we're so surprised that they don't know how to play as a team a week in. Come on. What are we doing? Our culture sucks. And if we don't say it, we're talented people. And it doesn't even mean they're selfish. But what happens in basketball, the way it works is you pass to a guy, he goes one-on-one and shoot, then you get the ball, you're like, well, if I pass it to him, he's going to shoot it again, so let me get some of mine in. It spreads.